This subject today is dealing with prescriptions for spiritual wellness. It is the second chapter of the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali. And it's a series that we've been having, and we'll have a few more following today's talk. It's really on managing the mind, how to deal with the mind. So we'll have a review. We've come to the 8 limbs of yoga in Sutra 229. Patanjali tells us, Yama niyamasana pranayama pratyahara dharana dhyana samadhayo stav angani. The 8 limbs of yoga are yama, the various forms of abstention from evil doing, niyama, the various observances, asana, posture, pranayama, control of the breath, pratyahara, withdrawal of the mind from sense objects, dharana, concentration, dhyana, meditation, and samadhi, absorption. So there are 8 different avenues of discipline that we can take up. If we follow them, spiritual experience is achievable. So not only that, but if we can attain perfection in any one of these yamas or niyamas, other virtues automatically follow in their wake. So that gives us a lot of encouragement. It should not be an overwhelming process, but it takes a lot of concentration and fortitude. Spiritual insight unfolds within us, and our character undergoes a sea change, and we become noticeably transformed. So not only do we feel different, but those around us sense a difference. So each yama and niyama have a root in the whole personality. Sutra 30. Ahimsa satya satyasteya brahmacharya parigraha yamaha. Yama is abstention from harming others, falsehood, theft, incontinence, and greed. So we each have certain tendencies that are very predominant in us. So himsa comes from the instinct for self-preservation. Preservation of our life, our reputation, our wealth, our belongings. So this tendency, along with other such negative tendencies, is what the yamas help us with. Help us to manage so we can channel our energies upward. Ahimsa is the counter antidote to himsa. Satya is the opposite of asatya, untruthfulness. Swami Brahmananda, direct disciple of Sri Ramakrishna, said at one time, truth is the pillar to which you must always hold while performing any action. And why such emphasis on truthfulness? In fact, Sri Ramakrishna was absolutely meticulous about truthfulness, even in small comments. For example, if you say you are going to do something, you must do it. You must follow through. Otherwise, your words don't carry truth. And he himself, when he promised a devotee he would visit and forgot and found that it was night and he had remembered, he himself went to that person's house and stepped inside and said, I'm here, just to make the impression that truth had been followed on the mind. So the root of the word satya means sat, is sat. Its existence itself. That's why truthfulness is so important. If we cannot practice truthfulness, we cannot realize the truth, which is sat. Asteya. Asteya is the opposite of steya, stealing. We don't simply refrain from stealing, but we try not to harbor any covetousness, aparigraha, the fourth yama. So aparigraha is the opposite of parigraha, acquisition, covetousness. Swami Brahmananda explains what happens to acquisitiveness. He said, as long as a man desires the things of the world, it is not possible for him to have any earnest desire to know God. See, it's where we place our mind. That is what is important. Whereas when we become established in non-covetousness, we, like the richest people in the world, feel no lack. Our mind is free. Brahmacharya, continence, is the opposite of abrahmacharya, more broadly, sexual misconduct according to one's station in life. Brahmacharya for monastics means chastity in thought, word, and deed. Why? Vivekananda tells us the soul, the self, has no sex. Therefore, with brahmacharya, one is affirming and trying to actualize that ideal. This is what I love about Vedanta. It's so practical. You know, so long as we understand and can absorb the meaning, then we own that truth and it becomes easier for us to follow it. Sutra 31, Patanjali tells us, Jati desha kala samayana vachinaha sarvabhoma mahavratam. These forms of abstention are universal vows. They must be practiced without any reservations as to time, place, purpose, or caste rules. So we clean the instrument of the mind by practicing these yamas and niyamas, these abstentions and observances. Any measure of self-control in this regard is called tapas. So anything that we try to do following the truthfulness is tapas, and it adds up the storehouse of spiritual energy within us. Sutra 3. Sutra 32, excuse me. Shocha santosha tapaha swadhyayeshwara pranidhanani niyamaha. Purity, contentment, austerity, study, and devotion to God are the niyamas, the observances. Shocha, the desire for cleanliness, the desire to be pure, both externally and internally. So as students of Vedanta, we must learn to regard this body of ours as a temple of God, because God resides within. And said before, the mere act of watching the body has a psychological effect on the mind. We feel purified and we feel we're a fit abode to receive the Lord in our heart. So in the early morning, when we rise from our bed, we just wash the face, wash out the mouth, wash the hands and the feet, and we feel semi-purified and ready to go into the shrine to meditate. So internal cleanliness is also important. Dirt has accumulated because sometimes we're victims of kama, desire, passion, krodha, anger, lobha, greed, moha, infatuation or delusion, madha, pride, matsarya, jealousy. These are all negative propensities that dirty us, enemies of our spiritual welfare. So they may be fleeting, but so also when we have a vigilant mind, we understand when these propensities come across the mind. And so it awakens our desire to counteract them. So what to do? We learn to regulate our mental food intake. How? By what we read, see, and talk about. And now my teacher, told us, the convent members, he said, it's not so much what you talk about, it's how you talk about it, what you take to the conversation, you see? So it's immensely important to try to keep holy company. The vibrations of like-minded spiritual aspirants is a spiritual food, a tangible food that we all need. If it's physically impossible, then we must try to make a daily habit of reading the scriptures and the lives of the holy personalities. That becomes keeping holy company. Samtosha. Whatever we have, we must try to be satisfied with it. As long as we can live comfortably, plain living, high thinking is the motto. Our thought processes should remain at a high level. So try to keep our mind at a high level. And so in order to do this, we must strive to be at peace with ourselves and disallow worldly thoughts to disturb us, and refrain from obsessing about any chance for our personal gain. See, we keep a watch over our mind. We ourselves are the watchman or the watchwoman. Tapas. One method is to toughen ourselves by exposing ourselves to life's contradictions. So over time, we develop internal strength and stamina. Nothing can shake us. How? By building our willpower to take the highest stance, joy or sorrow, pleasure or pain, whatever comes, we must strive to try to remain the witness. In the flow of life, we must strive to remember the main thing throughout, our spiritual center. There's a saying, the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. And someone had gifted this to me, and it was engraved in a rock. And when Swami Sarvapriyananda saw it, he said, "Oh, I must have that." Meaning, he would find something like that. And I said, "Here, you take this." And he said, "Oh, this is a wonderful gift. The main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing." Swadhyaya, self-education. Through the study of sacred texts, we try to hook our mind to the highest common factor of that study. I must find my true nature. Who am I? See, you're not a passive reader. You read with questions. We are also studying to learn how to study the mind and to increase our devotion. Whatever we study, we must ask ourselves, how can this help me? The clues can be found in the lives of the avatars and the saints and the seers. Ishvara Pranidhanam. Cultivate devotion to the chosen ideal through worship, japa, constant recollectedness. Ishvara means Godhead. Pranidhana means practicalization of those ideas conveyed to us by Shraddha, faith. Shraddha is something that grows. It's an organic something within us. The more that we study, reason, question, and then find the answer, we begin to feel that we own our spiritual life. We own our religion. And that ownership impels us, motivates us forward. It gives us Shraddha in ourselves. Pranidhana means we strive with a one-pointedness of mind so that we'll become one with God and engage in a constant interaction with God. Yes, why not? Even when we're conversing with people, someone might ask, the mind goes outward. No, try to feel that your chosen ideal is embodied in that person. That changes the level of the conversation. That changes that person's reaction to you by just that one divine thought of projection. There's nowhere where God is not. We can bring that into our spiritual lives. We must use our ingenuity. So the yamas and niyamas we must cultivate and channel into Ishvara Pranidhana. That is the end. And the means are the disciplines of the yamas and the niyamas. Then Patanjali shows us that when we go to practice, we run into the difficulties because our life before our spiritual life was flowing in a different direction. Not just this life, but previous life. So many previous lives. And so it takes an indomitable courage and willpower to change that course. Sutra 233. Oops. Here we are. Vitarka bhatane pratipaksha bhavanam. When assailed by thoughts obstructive to yoga, contrary thoughts should be cultivated. Very helpful. Patanjali gives us a guideline. If a negative thought takes hold of our mind, we should try to make a conscious effort to think its opposite. Why? Because that negative thought is only hurting us. You see? The mind is our holy company. And if the mind is anxious, angry, jealous, it's very bad company. And nobody else cares. So we must take ownership. For example, first try to control it in the germ state. Vivekananda says, when I'm angry, my whole mind becomes a huge wave of anger. I feel it, see it, handle it, can easily manipulate it, can fight with it, but I shall not succeed perfectly in the fight until I can get down below to its causes. It makes sense. He goes on, a man says something very harsh to me, and I begin to feel that I am getting heated. And he goes on till I am perfectly angry and forget myself, identify myself with anger. When he first began to abuse me, I thought, I'm going to be angry. Anger was one thing, and I was another. But when I became angry, I was anger. These feelings, he said, have to be controlled in the germ, the root, in their fine forms, before even we have become conscious that they are acting on us. So as we progress in spiritual life, we become much more adept at seeing into the internal regions of the mind. Sometimes advanced students have come to the Swami and said, I feel like I'm getting worse. And the Swami would have said, no, you're becoming more aware of what's going on in the mind. Swami Brahmananda guided those monks prone to anger to awaken the opposite thought waves in the germ state. He said, learn patience. Anger is controlled through patience. Be patient, forbearing, and humble. Humility is a great aid in the building of character. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, he who can forbear lives. He who cannot is lost. In this way, by preparing the ground, we can then successfully be more alerted and poised to raise counter thoughts when challenged by negative thoughts as they rise. And Vivekananda explains this to us. He says, when a big wave of anger has come into the mind, how are we to control that? Just by raising the opposing wave. Think of love, he says. Sometimes a mother is very angry with her husband. And while in that state, the baby comes in and she kisses the baby. The old wave dies out and a new wave arises. Love for the child. That suppresses the other one. Love is the opposite to anger. Vivekananda concludes, similarly, when the idea of stealing comes, Non-stealing should be thought of. When the idea of receiving gifts come, replace it by a contrary thought. Give instead of being the receiver. So what are the numbers and the depths of these obstacles? This is verse 34, and it's very complicated. Patanjali says the obstacles to yoga, such as of violence and untruth, may be directly created, indirectly caused, or third approved. They may be first motivated by greed, by anger, or self-interest. They may be small, moderate, or great, but they never cease to result in pain and ignorance. So in other words, from this sutra, we see that there are 81 types of himsa. 3 directly or indirectly created or approved, 3 motivated by greed, anger, and self-interest, times 3 small, moderate, intense, 81. So those are the obstacles. So take anger. How to get out of anger. There's first the analytical approach. We think, I've suffered from anger. I think we've all suffered anger. I've embarrassed myself by my anger. I have nowhere to hide my face or words to express my apologies. Can't I outgrow this? No more will I be a victim of this. So that's the analytical approach. The second one is to cultivate the opposite quality. Someone is angry with me, let me withdraw. That habituated anger becomes eroded when it receives no support from me. This is spiritual ingenuity. To react in the way you wish, not driven by destructive emotions. So this personally motivated resourcefulness becomes a spiritual adventure. How to get around our negative emotions through vitarkanam. Not only must we be aware of our own negative tendencies, such as anger, but the degree in which it can become inflamed, mild, medium, or intense. And when we see the intensity grow, we must work harder to counteract it. You see? And when we see 2 people quarreling and we have the capability to stop it, but instead enjoy it, we're also culpable of himsa rather than ahimsa. So this is how subtle these qualities are. In other words, by observing it and enjoying it, we've become a party of violence. Swami Sridharananda, a wonderful Swami, he must be close to 100 now, he's the founder of the many, many centers in Australia, disciple of Swami Virajananda, who was a disciple of Holy Mother. He explains, ahimsa means you don't become violent, you don't incite violence, and you don't enjoy others engaging in violent behavior. Okay, so now we come to what are the effects of perfection in any one of these yamas. Sutta 35. Ahimsa pratishtayam tat sanido vairatyagaha. When the yogin is established in non-harming others, then all living creatures will cease to feel enmity in his presence. See? St. Francis of Assisi had that capacity. He attracted all kinds of animals. He completely absence of himself. So this non-harming of others is a powerful psychological force to which both humans and animals are sensitive. Swami Brahmananda is Parakoti, ever free soul, was established in all virtues such as non-violence. Swami Prabhavananda used to tell us in the convent, at one time, he was walking with another disciple and myself. He was slightly ahead of us. Suddenly we heard a shout, "Out of the way, there's a mad bull." An instant later, we saw the bull itself rushing towards us. There was no time to. My brother disciple and I tried to get in front of Maharaj to protect him, but he raised his arms and pushed us back. Although he was now an elderly man, he was still extraordinarily strong. As the bull approached with lowered head, there was a moment's pause. Maharaj stood still, confronting it. Then the bull stopped, shook its head from side to side, lifted it, and walked quietly away. Sutra 36. Satya pratishtayam kriya phala shrayatvam. When a man becomes steadfast in his abstention from falsehood, he gets the power of obtaining for himself and others the fruits of good deeds without having to perform the deeds themselves. So for one established in truth, truth follows their words. Here the concept of Satya is raised to a spiritual, eternal, real point of view. When Christ said, "I am the way, the truth, and the life," what did he mean? For the avatar who is established in truth, truth follows their words. That is why on January 1st, 1886, when Sri Ramakrishna said to the householder devotees who were there in Kasipur, "May you all be illumined," those present were illumined. Truth followed his words. There were at that time one or two who did not have the experience then. Sri Ramakrishna said, "For you, it will come a little later." Buddha said, "I have become one with truth." And the light of truth he saw in all. By Satya, we also understand another deep meaning. It is the eternal truth, which is the will of the divine, manifesting itself in the cosmos. Swami Sri Dharananda said, "Truth is the flow of happening in this world. One who experiences this knows, as an observer, I am an eternal witness, not involved with likes or dislikes, and without allowing my ego to intervene. So I see all is happening by the will of God." He continued, "For those whose personal likes or dislikes are like spice that we put onto that which has no spice, my likes and dislikes enhance my ego only, and I interpret all that is happening according to my colored vision. That is not truth." So, what are the three effects of truth? Birth, satya pratishtayam, truthfulness in speech. When we are absolutely poised in this conviction, what we experience is expressed in exactitude. Second, when we're immersed in truth in our thought world, our whole being is saturated with truth, and we realize the will of God. Excuse me. There's a Sri Ramakrishna parable. An old man saw God's will in everything. He saw a burglar thieving, and he escaped. The police came and performed an inquest. The old man enjoyed the show. The police asked him what happened, but the police thought he was the culprit and presented him to court. The judge asked what happened. You're pretending not to be the burglar, but you saw the burglar. Why didn't you stop him? Because you are the burglar. But the old man explained, I was simply enjoying the sun by God's will. By God's will, I saw the burglar rob. And by God's will, he escaped. And by God's will, the police came. And by God's will, they think I am the criminal. And by God's will, the court was convinced I was innocent. By God's will, I was finally set free. So those are the words of one who is immersed in the divine. So we must try to see the will of God in every moment of our lives. And that's a tall order. And that will saturate our being. When we come to that point in our spiritual life, our whole being will be saturated to such an extent that there will be no room for the ego. Third, satya kataham, the state wherein we have tuned ourselves to truth in such a way that whatever we may say will happen. For example, in June 1900, Miss Minnie Book offered Swami Vivekananda 160 acres of land in the San Antonio Valley in California. That is now the Shanti Ashram, and it's owned by the Vedanta Society of Northern California. It's an incredible place of pilgrimage. On accepting the land from Miss Minnie Book, Swami Vivekananda spoke to Swami Turiyananda, who had been lecturing and holding classes at the New York Vedanta Society since April. In fact, I think there are about 6 direct disciples who came to the United States. Turiyananda was one of them. And of his intention to send him to California at once to lead the Vedanta movement there and to establish the Shanti Ashram, or peace retreat. But Swami Turiyananda was devoted to a life of meditation and austerity, and always hesitated to plunge himself into work. Thus, he was averse to the idea, and failing to prevail upon him by argument, the Swami said at last, Swami Vivekananda, it is the will of the mother that you should take charge of the work there. Swami Turiyananda jokingly responded, rather say it is your will. Certainly you have not heard the mother communicate her will to you in that way. How can we hear the words of the mother? Swami Vivekananda replied, yes, brother. Yes, the words of the mother can be heard as clearly as we hear one another. It only requires a fine nerve to hear the words of the mother. The Swami said this with such fervor that Swami Turiyananda could not but accept his wish as expressing the will of the Divine Mother, and he cheerfully agreed to take charge of the California work. So when one practices truth in thought, word, and deed, such a person tune themselves to God in such a way that whatever they will say will happen. It doesn't happen easily. It happens with total transformation of the human personality. Sutra 37. Asteya pratishtayam sarva ratnopasthanam. When one is established in non-stealing, all wealth comes to him. Asteya means not being the victim of greed. I will have only what God wants me to have. Greed is a desire to have more money, reputation, possessions. So we must, by hook or by crook, eradicate greed and ownership from the mind. We must not come to asking for things in life. But if we want to desire, let's turn that desire towards desiring our true nature. Now, lay devotees must say, well, we have a house, we have a car, we have children. But we in Santa Barbara, in the Santa Barbara convent, we had devotees, a couple living down the lane. And they were so amazing, so inspiring. And they turned everything into, this is mother's house. This is mother's bank account. This is mother's car. And in just turning everything over to the Divine Mother, they became so attuned. The husband, his name was Mahavakya Tatvamasi. He began to sense when Swami Prabhavananda needed him, and he would be there at the convent just in time. So any one of these qualities turns us Godward and turns us into divinities on earth. So we must not succumb to ask for things in life, but if we want to desire, let's turn that desire toward desiring our true original nature. When one gives up external desires, he or she becomes tranquil and centered. So centered that people offer them the best that they have. Why? Because within them, the desire to want has completely disappeared. It brings us such peace. In Sri Ramakrishna's case, the Divine Mother showed the Master that she had sent 4 suppliers to take care of his needs. Mathur Babu, the proprietor of the Dakshineshwar temple and compound, Balaram Basu, whose Calcutta family members had been devotees for generations, and they fed the Master whenever he went to Kolkata. Shambhu Malak, who served the Master and Holy Mother for about 4 years before his own death. And finally, Surendra Nath of Simla, a half supplier who helped with the rent for the Kasipur garden house. Sutra 38. Brahmacharya pratishtayam virya labhaha. By being established in continence, one acquires spiritual energy. So this sex idea is prominent in most minds and consumes a good deal of our vital force. When the sex idea is sublimated and controlled, the aspirant acquires a gigantic willpower and spiritual energy, and that's utilized for higher pursuit of self-transformation and God realization. When Swami Vivekananda was asked, "Who can come by that oratorical power of expounding philosophy which you have?" Vivekananda answered, "That power comes to him who observes unbroken brahmacharya for a period of 12 years with the sole object of realizing God. I have practiced that kind of brahmacharya myself. And so a screen has been removed, as it were, from my brain. For that reason, I need not anymore think over or prepare myself for any lectures on such a subtle subject as philosophy." He continued, "Suppose I have to lecture tomorrow. All that I shall speak about will pass tonight before my eyes, like so many pictures. And the next day I put into words during my lecture all those things that I saw. So you will understand now that it is not any power which is exclusively my own. Whoever still practices unbroken brahmacharya for 12 years will surely have that." Furthermore, Swami Brahmananda stated, if one remains continent for 12 years, he attains the highest. Sutra 39. Aparigrahas terye janma katamta sambodha. When one becomes steadfast and non-receiving, he gains knowledge of his past, present, and future experiences. Vivekananda said, when a man does not receive presence, he does not become beholden to others, but remains independent and free. His mind becomes pure. With every gift, he is likely to receive the evils of the giver. If he does not receive, the mind is purified, and the first power it gets is memory of past life. Then alone the yogi becomes perfectly fixed in his ideal. He sees that he has been coming and going many times, so he becomes determined that this time he will be free, that he will no more come and go and be the slave of nature. Swami Sarvagatananda once shared the advice of a wise old Swami. Swami Sarvagatananda was the former head of the Providence and Boston Centers. Wonderful Swami, disciple of Swami Akhandananda. If anyone gives you something, it is not yours. It is Sri Ramakrishna's. Do not take it for yourself. It is his. In that way, such gifts will not harm us as spiritual aspirants. So what are the effects of perfection in any one of the niyamas? Shocha, purity; samtosha, contentment; tapas, austerity; swadhyaya, study; ishvara pranidhana, devotion to God. We come now to Sutta 40. Sochat sanga jugupsa parar asamsargaha. As a result of purity, there arises indifference towards the body and disgust for physical intercourse and future existences. Vivekananda tells us, when there is real purification of the body, external and internal, there arises neglect of the body, and the idea of keeping it nice vanishes. The face which others call most beautiful will appear to the yogi as mere animal if there is not intelligence behind it. What the world calls a very common face, he regards as heavenly if the spirit shines behind it. It is only when purity comes that we get rid of the body idea. Now, I've shared this with you before, that when Swami Prabhavananda would come to our Santa Barbara convent, his attendant, I believe who was a Harvard or Yale graduate from a very wealthy family, but physically very ugly, would drive him and attend to him. He was his attendant. But there was something so special about Swami Krishnananda. Physically, feature for feature, so ugly. And yet the luminosity of his mind and heart just shone through his face that you could not take your eyes from him. And towards the end of his life, long after Swami Prabhavananda had passed on, he was in Bhavasamadhi. This I saw for myself, the extraordinary luminosity of his spiritual life just shone through, changed him feature for. In this connection, Mary Funke, an American disciple of Swami Vivekananda, often asked her guru rather daring questions. On one occasion, she wrote, I found myself wondering just how some of the beautiful society queens of the West would appear to Vivekananda, especially those versed in the art of allurement. And before I took time to think, out popped the question, and immediately I was covered with confusion. The Swami, however, looked at me calmly with his big, serious eyes and gravely replied, if the most beautiful woman in the world were to look at me in an immodest or unwomanly way, she would immediately turn into a hideous green frog, and one does not, of course, admire frogs. Sutra 41, Purity. Sattva Shuddhi Somanas yaika ka grendyandriya jatma darshana yoga gwani cha. Moreover, one achieves purification of the heart, cheerfulness of the mind, the power of concentration, control of the passions, and fitness for the vision of the Atman. As an aspirant's mind becomes purified, he or she no longer identifies with the body. Swami Prabhavananda explained in his Yoga Sutra commentary, therefore he grows indifferent to it, regarding it as a mere external garment, which is neither new nor clean. Furthermore, he ceases to desire the bodies of others, since he no longer identifies those bodies with the consciousness that inhabits them. So purity of heart expresses itself more and more as the sattva guna, the guna of spiritual insight and joy. And this photo of Sri Ramakrishna in ecstasy just shows that incredible transcendent luminosity. Vivekananda said the first sign that you are becoming religious is that you are becoming cheerful. To the yogi, everything does. Every human face that he sees brings cheerfulness to him. Misery is caused by sin and by no other cause. So what business have you with clouded faces? It's terrible. You have a clouded face. Don't go out that day. Shut yourself in your room. What right have you to carry this disease out into the world? Sutra 42, contentment. Samtoshad anuttamaha sukhalabhaha. From purity comes unsurpassed happiness. Purity brings with it desirelessness. When we live without desire, we live in the depths of the present moment. We feel no anxiety. Without desire, we feel genuine happiness. Swami Prabhavananda would say, the joy of the Atman is always within us. Think of that. It can be released at any time by breaking down the barriers of desire and fear which we have built up around it. There is a saying, be content, but practice divine discontentment. As Swami Brahmananda explained, contentment with the external conditions, yes, but never be contented with your state of spiritual growth. Become dissatisfied. Try to move ever onward in your search. Do not stop until you have found the diamond mind. And this refers to the Sri Ramakrishna parable. A woodcutter once entered a forest to gather wood, and a brahmachari said to him, go forward. He obeyed the injunction and discovered some sandalwood trees. After a few days reflected, the holy man asked me to go forward. He didn't tell me to stop here. So he went forward and found a silver mine. After a few days, he went still farther and discovered a gold mine, and next mines of diamonds and precious stones. And with these, he became immensely rich. Sutra 43, Tapas. Kayendriya siddhir ashuddhi kshayat tapasaha. As a result of austerity, impurities are removed. Then special powers come to the body and sense organs. See, this is all very scientific, very well analyzed, experienced, and laid out. Through austerity, we silence our negative thoughts. First, there's the literal interpretation of siddhi. Through sadhana, limitations of the body and mind fade away. Since we're no longer preoccupied with our body consciousness, our body, mind, and senses become refined and stronger, more fit instruments for yoga. The second literal interpretation of siddhi is Sadhana refines our sense perceptions and thus awakens our powers of the mind. Sutra 44. Swadhyaya. Swadhyayad ishta devata samprayogaha. As a result of study, one obtains the vision of that aspect of God one has chosen to worship. Now, study means not only scriptural study, but repetition of the mantra, the holy name of one's chosen ideal. And this meaning refers to sutras 27 to 29 of the first chapter. Sutra 27. Patanjali tells us, Tasya Vajaka Pranavaha. His manifested word is Om. Pranava is a sound symbol representing Ishvara, the ground of existence. Sutra 28. Tajapas Tadartha Bhavanam. The repetition of this Om and meditating on its meaning is the way. And Sutra 29. Tata Pratyaka Chetana Digamo Pyantaraya Bhavascha. From that is gained introspection and the destruction of obstacles. It refers also to Sutra 2, second chapter, 1, verse 1. Tapaha swadhyayeshvara pranani kriya yogaha. Austerity, study, and the dedication of the fruit of one's work to God. These are the preliminary steps to yoga. Sutra 45, and we'll end with this. Samadhi siddhir ishvara pranidhanat. As a result of devotion to God, one attains samadhi. This and the preceding sutra refer to bhakti yoga, expressed by ritual worship, prayer, and japam. Swami Prabhupada used to say, it is the cultivation of a direct, intense, personal relationship between worshiper and worshipped. In the practice of bhakti yoga, some special aspect of God or some divine incarnation is chosen so that the devotee's love may become more easily concentrated. For those who are naturally drawn to this approach, it is probably the simplest of all. And the Swami concluded, there is no doubt that the great majority of believers in all the world's major religions are fundamentally bhakti yogas. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
So thank you for being here again. And we enjoyed a really nice talk on the yamas and niyamas by Brahmaprana this morning. So I'm going to expand a bit on that topic and not speak so directly about them specifically, since she's already done that. So I'm going to speak more about the gunas today, because the balance of the gunas is about how we balance our mind so that we act from a place of spaciousness, direction, and support. So I entitled this session today, Yoga's Tools of Transformation, Support, Direction, and Space. So we should always keep in mind that yoga has no concept of spiritual transformation or spiritual growth, because Purusha has no need to grow or transform. It is essentially unchanging, eternal, and perfection itself. So it is Prakriti, or nature, we are always focusing on in our yoga sadhana or practice. We're trying to affect Prakriti in such a way that we clear obstacles to realize we truly are. And we do that by working with the gunas and placing our efforts on recalibrating our minds towards the sattvic guna. In sattva, we feel spacious, present, both grounded and stable, as well as relaxed and energized. It is in this state that we are most likely to act in alliance with the yamas and niyamas. An asana practice should always act in the service of helping bring our minds as close to sattva as possible. Then the following limbs of yoga, so we have yama, niyama, asana are the first three. The following limbs of pranayama, the breathing practices, and dharana, concentration, become the next tools in our toolbox to move us toward the realization of who we truly are, spiritual beings having a human experience. So the first idea that I mentioned, support, direction, and space, support, we must first have stability in order to move forward and have success in any endeavor in life. We need things. We like to think about detaching from things, but in order to move forward in life, we must have things such as people, ideas, structures that we can rely upon, and whose function is to provide stability and support in order to move us forward. The chair in our practice gives us support, as does the earth. A trusted friend or teacher, books, classes, or study groups also give us support. Cultivating stability is a prerequisite to all growth. This is the positive aspect of the grounding, stability aspect. But then we need direction. We need direction always in our lives. And here I'm thinking about the Raja Guna, how it can confuse and scatter the mind. We may feel confused about the path of asana practice we want to pair with our spiritual beliefs. We may have to try several lineages of asana, just as many of us had to try many spiritual lineages before we settled on this one, which we have devoted ourselves to. And direction is also reflected in the asanas themselves, directing our limbs, joints, muscles into a particular form to create a feeling tone or to move our minds in a desired direction. And then finally, we need space. First and foremost, we come to our path because we wish to be free from suffering. We seek freedom from discomfort in our bodies, irritation in our minds, and the restrictions that keep us from the growth we desire and that we believe will bring us peace and contentment. We typically make efforts to change our external environment and circumstances before we finally realize that true change only comes when we change our minds. We need space along with curiosity, presence, and intention for change to happen. Space is one aspect of the sattva guna and is only truly transformative when the other two gunas are satisfied. Our practice today, while short, is toward the goal of balancing the gunas. So if you'll take mountain pose, our stability pose, our pose of support that we start with, so that we come into connection with our bodies, but what's underneath our bodies, feeling the feet on the ground, that earth element, feeling our hips on our chair seat. And while a chair can provide us with support from the back, and we can always take that if we need it, but we're always trying to develop stability and strength from our core. So sitting up without the help of the back of the chair helps us to become more self-reliant. So we'll do a quick body scan around these three ideas. So as you take your mind through your body, notice the other places of support that you rely on, maybe not even consciously. You might think of the support of this very beautiful hall that we're sitting in, the pictures on the walls, the lecture we heard this morning. We feel those things in our bodies. We feel the safety that this beautiful environment provides for both our bodies and our minds. I can feel our hands on our legs, our clothes on our body, our breath moving through us. And then as we scan through our bodies for direction, and I'm thinking direction in this case as the straightness of the spine, the lift, and the direction at the top of the head moving up, and at the tail moving down. The direction of the shoulders as they relax, and the elbows as they sit heavy, like small weights, encouraging relaxation in the brain. And then the idea of space, feeling and being aware of space. Selves. How spacious are you feeling right now? And where do you experience space? Go through your joints, starting with your ankles, and notice the presence or absence of a feeling of space there. And then to your knees. Feel your hips. And just go with your intuition. Am I feeling space or no? There's no right or wrong. And then to the shoulders. And to the neck. And then a little more esoteric way, go to see if you feel space around your brain. Does it feel like your brain is resting, kind of floating inside your head? Or the space around your eyes? Or in your throat? In the center of your chest? Or maybe you can only be aware of the space that comes with the breath. So going back for just a moment to support the idea of tamas and the grounding. And then going to direction of rajas, giving us the energy to propel us on our journey. And space or presence, being here now, fully intentioning to move ourselves forward towards balance. So now bringing the hands together at the heart and feeling the shape, the most fundamental shapes of all spiritual practice. See if you can feel the quality of all three gunas in this shape. Feel the stability of the hands pressing together. Feel the direction of the fingers and the spaciousness of the heart. And with the head bowed, salute the teacher within and create an intention for yourself for this short practice to remain present, curious, open, to follow direction to the best of your ability, to remain conscious of all the supports that you have right here, right now. And then keeping the eyes closed, but releasing the hands, take a nice, deep, full breath. Sigh it out through your mouth. Do that again. And one more. And then you can open your eyes and we'll begin the movement. And we'll start, as we always do, with very simple movements, moving to a little more complex movement. So just with your hands on your thumbs, your knees, we'll take cat-cow, joining our breath with our movement. So we have the stability of our spine. We want to loosen it up while making it stronger at the same time. So as you inhale, arch your back, kind of pressing your spine inwards, feeling the shortening of the spine on the back, lengthening of the spine on the front. Exhaling, straightening the elbows, pressing the spine back, tucking your chin, and then going right back into the inhale when you're ready. So follow your own breath. You don't have to follow me. Follow your own breath. Try to just feel this changing dynamic within you. As you connect your breath and your movement by using concentration of the mind, let those things kind of culminate into a whole. And then be open to where that leads you, where it takes you, what questions arise, what answers come as you do something so very simple, but so very helpful to your overall well-being. So we're going to add to this by using our arms and just going a little deeper. So exhale. As you inhale, take your arms overhead. And as you exhale, round up a little bit. Back feather. Inhaling, raising the arms up. Exhaling, rounding. Inhaling, arching. And again, don't feel like you have to follow me. I'm just here as a little voice in the back of your mind and helping you to stay with your experience. Last one, inhaling. Last one, exhaling. And then just bringing the hands back to your thighs. Take an inhale and exhale. So we'll move on to a seated sun salutation. So inhaling, again, bowing forward, exhaling. Inhaling, bring your hands to your knees, arch your back. Exhaling, bowing all the way forward. And this time as you inhale, just pull your right knee as close to your chest as you can. Arch your back. Exhale, round. Inhale, take your arms up. And exhale and fold. Inhale, lift your left knee up. Exhale, round your back. Inhale, take the arms up. And exhale, just lower them. Inhale, take the arms up. Exhale, bow. Inhale, come halfway up, arch. Exhale, fold. Inhale, this time take your left knee up and arch. Exhale, round. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, fold. Right knee up, inhaling, arch your back. Exhale, round your back. Inhale, lifting. Exhale. Sorry, I messed up that time. Bring your hands to your heart. And then just rest your hands on your thighs for a moment. And then just separate your legs a little bit and we'll circle the hips. So as you're circling the hips, feel the ground underneath your feet and just feel the transfer of your weight from point to point on your pelvis, going forward towards the pubic bones, to one sit bone, to the tailbone, to the other sit bone. And really feel this connection as you are intentionally transferring your weight. You do all of these things all the time unconsciously. We're simply bringing them into our awareness and noticing the effects. What does this do? Can you feel the stretch in your back? Can you feel the loosening of your hip joints, your shoulders? And then when you get all the way back to the starting position, reverse and go in the other direction. And just notice, is it any different when you go this way? Asana practice does not need to be complicated. It only needs to support the well-being of the body, to keep it mobile, functional. It needs to support our lifestyle. And most of all, it needs to support our nervous system. One more round. Our nervous system is what connects our brains and our bodies, our minds and our experiences. So now as we just take a moment to feel, notice how you're already transforming your experience from wherever you were to wherever you are, hopefully in a positive direction, but it's not always positive if you misuse or abuse the asanas. They can be a weapon just like anything else in life. Let's roll our shoulders. Very simple. Loosening up the neck. Opening the chest. We sit with our arms forward so much of the time anymore. We need to open our chest. Give it more space. That is where our heart resides. And it is hungry for space so that it can shine and move out into the world. And then just holding the shoulders down, let's encourage this opening by just taking our hands back, maybe grabbing hold of the back layer. Tuck your chin just barely, but don't drop your chest. So this is a mistake a lot of us make, or we'll hunch. So keep the chest up. Lead with your chest, not your chin, and just lean forward. Feel that stretch across your collarbones. Now, also pay attention for a moment to your low back, because in this position, sometimes, depending on the condition of your low back, it can feel a little compression. because it causes the back to arch a little bit. If you have that experience, without changing your chest, on your exhale, just gently tone your belly towards your spine and take your sit bones down to your chair seat and take any compression out of your low back while opening your chest. Now, stay in this position for another breath or two and just drop your chin, tuck it a little bit, but don't drop your chest. And then inhale and lift your chin. And exhale and tuck your chin. Keep breathing. We never hold, well, I'm not going to say we never hold the breath. Sometimes we do, but we only do that intentionally. We don't want to do it unconsciously. So unless you're being guided otherwise, always keep your breath natural. Never want to feel breathless. And now tucking the chin one last time. Keep the chest up, keep the chin tucked, and release your arms and bring them back so that you're really sitting up straight, and just notice how much more lifted you are here in your upper body and how much straighter your spine is becoming. And your shoulders may also have a little bit of a change, and shoulders should be level with your neck, not pulled way down, not up around your ears. Okay, so opening the chest helps that. Let's turn now. And as you turn, take a moment to observe, just glance back forward and look at your knees. And just see if your knees are still on the same plane, okay? So if you twist a little bit more, so using your hand, that's how we really get good rotation in our spine. Pull yourself around a little bit more until you feel your left knee go forward and your right knee kind of pulls back. Just notice that. And you can glance forward again and just notice. Have your knees kind of been displaced? That's what we're looking for right now. As you hold the twist, though, now I want you to pull your back and take the twist out of the low back and just in your upper back. That's where we really need the twist. We don't need it in the low back. Lumbar vertebrae are not really meant to twist so much. It's your rib cage that twists. So we're creating stability by keeping the knees level while taking as much rotation as is available. Now, just release that. Come back. I don't know if it's because I've been doing this so long, but every time I do that, I can feel that energy. Do you feel it? Do you kind of feel that energy in your chest and kind of tingling? That's what you're looking for. Feels good. Okay, let's twist around to the other side. Really lets us know how much we have clamped down through tension that we're unconscious of. So again, now turn a little bit more, let your right knee go forward and pull your left knee back so that you can twist just a little further. But notice how it is also in your low back, how you're also twisting your low back. So I want you to now pull, without losing the rotation, try to pull your left knee back, reach your right knee a little forward. Excuse me, I said that exactly wrong. Pull your right knee back and reach your left knee a little forward while holding the twist. Maybe harder on this side, maybe easier on this side. Sides are usually very asymmetrical. So just hold it as you breathe, never hold your breath. And then carefully and slowly release and come back to the center. And again, just feel what tension you just let go of. Bring your arms forward, interlace your fingers, continuing to work on the chest, stretch your arms away. Inhale, take the arms all the way up and over the ears. Okay, now this is a good place to really, you guys are amazing, I have to tell you. I've taught a lot of people. I have never seen so many straight arms without me really, having to say it over and over. Everybody's arms are so straight. So just, are you breathing though? That's the most important part, right? So as you inhale, look up. Stretch up a little bit more. Hold the stretch up. Exhale, tuck your chin. Inhale, look up and really stretch. And exhale, tuck your chin. One more. Inhale, look up. Stretch up. Exhale, tuck your chin. And inhale and relax. Okay. So again, we did 15 minutes of movement, and hopefully you feel that you've changed something in your experience. So we're going to take that into this reflection part, the Svadhyaya of Kriya Yoga. So if you'll close your eyes again, take your awareness through your body, and just kind of notice what you're experiencing. And notice if it feels any different than it did when you did the first body scan. Notice your places of stability. Notice your feet on the ground. Notice your hips in your chair. Be aware of your chair and the support that you have there. Notice the direction of your spine. Are you sitting up any straighter? Or is it easier to sit up straighter? Is it just easier to feel while sitting? By the way, those aren't the questions for reflection, but still important. And then notice any spaciousness that you feel and where you feel it. Has that enlarged? Do you feel any more balanced between your body and your mind? Now I want you to just take a moment to reflect on these questions. How can I increase the supports I have in my life to further my spiritual path? Maybe it's getting support from family to do your practice. Maybe it's finding a teacher to guide you. What supports could you add or increase? Am I clear about my spiritual direction? Or do I feel confused? Or do I doubt? What obstacles am I aware of that are blocking me or getting in the way of my growth? And what one thing could I add or subtract from my life this week that would enhance my practice? And then bringing the hands together again at the heart, bowing, thanking yourself for taking the time to connect, to notice, to be present. I thank you for giving me this opportunity to share this journey. Namaste.